What Parker Schnabel has discovered beneath the icy ground of Alaska has shaken the entire gold rush world. Parker has always broken records with his ingenuity and hard work, but this time, what happened seems like something straight out of a movie. As the team was digging deep, the machine suddenly stopped. Something very heavy was hidden beneath the soil. The camera crew's faces stiffened. Parker himself jumped down. And what he saw was something no one could have imagined. From beneath the dirt and water, a glow emerged that would astonish anyone. It looked as if sunlight had been trapped underground. Parker uttered just one line, "Guys, this is it." And then all was quiet. Was this the biggest gold find ever? Or something more precious than gold itself? Just by looking at the crew's faces, it was clear that this discovery could change everything. The entire camp is on alert now. No one is saying anything. Just the cameras are rolling, and Parker has that sparkle in his eyes, the kind that only comes when someone makes the biggest discovery of their life. But the question is, what did Parker find? You'll have to watch the entire video to find out. Don't forget to like the video, share it with your friends, and tell us in the comments, what do you think Parker found there? And yes, be sure to subscribe to the channel, because what's coming next will be more surprising than gold. Flashback: Parker's new mission. Amidst the icy mountains of Alaska, Parker Schnabel was preparing for a new beginning. He'd been paid for record-breaking gold in the Yukon for the past few years, but now he felt the real challenge was over. Parker was always looking for new places, where every shovel of soil held a new story. This thought drove him to Alaska, where every inch of the land was shrouded in mystery. There were no old road maps, and no one had ever explored the depths before. Parker asked his old mentor, Dawa, to make the decision to venture into a new location with the entire team, the biggest risk of his career. Some on the team even asked Parker, "Is this the right move? The soil here is like a refrigerator. There's no data, and the weather is unpredictable." But Parker simply snapped a picture and said, "If it's easy, do it." This was the line that reinvigorated the team. Parker had only one thing on his mind: to prove that he wasn't just a lucky gold digger, but a true discoverer who could overcome nature. The risk was high, but the reward could be even greater. This was the beginning of a new story: the Alaskan gold hunt. That day, when Parker first pulled the key to his digging machine, the wind of the wildest dreams blew through his face. The roar of his machine echoed through the distant snowy mountains, and with it, Parker's passion. Everyone in this new land of Alaska was intimidated. Only Parker's eyes sparkled. He knew this journey wouldn't be easy, but this difficult path was the stuff of legend. He said, "If we want gold, we'll have to go where there's no one." And with that began their greatest adventure yet. Alaska's harsh conditions. The first few weeks were nothing short of a nightmare for Parker and his team. The Alaskan cold was so intense that it felt like a refrigerator every few hours. Early in the morning, when the light shone on Parker's site, the excavators were frozen solid. The jets jammed, satellite pipes burst, and the trucks were simply unstoppable. Parker himself once fell through the snow and exclaimed, "This place is no joke. It can kill." The fear and exhaustion were evident among the team, but Parker's memory remained. Every night, when the temperature dropped to 20 unearthed, Parker called his team around the fire. "We're not here to sleep. We're here to push our limits," he said. Some on the team were deserting. Others were considering a break. But Parker knew that a leader's true identity was revealed in difficult times. He was at the excavation site every time, demonstrating to the vendors how to shovel and break up the frozen soil. His hands were cracking from the cold, but his voice held a passion that could lift anyone. When the fuel ran out, Parker took over the supply truck himself. When the crane jammed, he launched a counterattack. Through every difficulty, Parker's determination grew. His team now saw him not just as a boss, but as a warrior. And gradually, even on the frozen ground, he began to bow to them. The color of the soil beneath the snow changed, and the spark in Parker's eyes returned. The Alaskan cold didn't turn Parker into concrete. It made him stronger. Every day was a new battle, but every night a new hope was born within Parker. He knew this difficult path led to a great discovery, and perhaps this time he would find gold that would go down in history. Not just Germany. Team dynamics and conflict. After a few weeks at this new camp in Alaska, tensions began to rise within Parker's team. Despite working day and night, when no solid traces of gold were found, hope began to fade from everyone's faces. The cold, fatigue, and constantly failing machines had sapped everyone's spirits. Every evening, when Parker called a team meeting, the atmosphere was heavy. Mitch would whisper, "How long are we going to keep digging here?" And Brennan would reply, "Maybe Parker picked the wrong spot this time." Parker would hear their conversation, but wouldn't say anything. He just watched from afar, as if a storm was brewing inside. Slowly, comparisons began to emerge within the team. Tony Beets has already made millions this season, and here we are, searching for gold in the snow, where there isn't any. This wasn't easy for Parker to bear. Tony had always been his competitor, but this time he felt everyone doubted him. Yet he didn't show any anger. He simply calmly said, "In the gold rush, it's not luck that wins, but courage. When others give up, we'll fight on." There was a cool confidence in his voice that silenced the team. One night, Parker sat alone for a long time, writing in his notebook. A camera behind him silently recorded. Parker said, "If we want to achieve something big, we have to believe in ourselves. We won't leave until the ground gives us its answer." This line later went viral. "We're not leaving without a strike." From that moment, Parker's team threw their full force again. The first signs of gold. The next morning, as the excavator began digging deep into the soil, all eyes were on the machine. Parker himself stood near the control panel, his hands trembling with cold. Then suddenly, a faint glow appeared in the scoop. Initially, no one noticed, but as sunlight fell on the soil, a golden sparkle shimmered. Brennan was shocked. "Wait, is that gold?" Hope returned to everyone's faces. Parker reached down, bent down into the soil, and gently picked up the shiny particle. Holding it in his palm, he observed it for a few seconds, then smiled and said, "This could be something big." These 5 words reinvigorated the team. Not everyone applauded, but their faces clearly reflected the joy that had been missing for days. They cleaned the sample and placed it in the weighing kit. The tiny particle may not have weighed much, but it meant a great deal. A return of hope. Mitch said, "If this is real gold, there must be more below." Parker simply said, "Dig again, until you uncover the truth." The excavator started moving again, the cameras started rolling, and the cold Alaskan air was filled with excitement, not fear. That day, for the first time, Parker felt that luck might be on his side. A small spark ignited the entire team. Everyone's eyes were filled with the same passion they had that first day. Parker looked up at the sky and said, "Maybe this is just the beginning." No one could have imagined that this small spark would change history in the weeks to come, and that Parker Schnabel's name would once again be associated with the greatest discovery of the gold rush. Geological surprise. When Parker's team found the first gold particle, they immediately called in the geological team to examine a sample of the soil layers. Geologist Mike wandered the site for a few hours, scraping and examining the soil layers, and then said, "The layer here isn't like the other sites." Parker leaned over and asked, "What do you mean?" Showing the soil in his hand, Mike said, "It looks like an old riverbed, and it contains rare metallic traces." Everyone fell silent at his words. If this was true, it meant that a centuries-old river channel lay buried beneath this site, and that's where the gold must have been deposited. Parker's eyes lit up. "So we're on a dry creek bed?" Mike nodded. "Exactly. And if we're lucky, the gold here could be purer than anywhere else." Hearing this, every member of the team was filled with renewed enthusiasm. Now, excavation had become not just digging, but a calculated mission. But a slight difference began to appear between Parker's practical thinking and Mike's scientific theory. Parker said, "Science says to dig where there are signs, but my instinct says we should go 10 feet deeper." Mike hesitated. "If we do that, the soil will become unstable." Parker calmly replied, "Taking risks is the real science of the gold rush." The team was divided, some with Parker, some with Mike. But in the end, Parker prevailed. He said, "We'll go down, but I'll be in control." He knew that this mix of geology and gut feeling always led him to the jackpot. And indeed, as the digging deepened, the soil's color changed. Shiny metallic dust and pieces of quartz became visible, signs of a major deposit. Everyone felt they were very close, but no one knew what was coming next. Sudden equipment failure. That same evening, when the excavation had reached its most crucial point, the drill machine suddenly stopped with a strange noise. At first, everyone thought it was a minor technical problem, but when the operator tried to restart it, the machine completely failed. The site fell silent. The excavator's humming sound was replaced by the whistling of cold air. Mitch worriedly said, "We've reached such a depth. If the machine stops now, the entire operation will come to a halt." Brennan said, "Maybe we overloaded it." Parker immediately arrived and calmly approached the machine. His eyes were cold, but his mind was racing. He asked the operator, "How long has the sound been coming?" The operator replied, "The vibrations had been increasing for the last 10 minutes. Then suddenly the power cut off." Parker immediately pushed everyone back and climbed down himself. His hands were caked with mud and oil, but he inspected every line of the machine. After a moment, he said softly, "It's not mechanical. Something's stuck down there." Everyone's breath stopped. He bent down to where the drill had stopped. The soil looked slightly metallic and black. Parker took a flashlight and peered down. "Something solid and very heavy," he said. The crew members looked at each other. Had they reached a large rock layer or something else? Parker calmly said, "No one should panic. No one should touch the machine until I'm sure." There was a confidence in his voice that could even quell fear. After a few seconds of silence, Parker took a deep breath and said, "We may have hit something big, and this isn't just a search for gold anymore." The camera crew captured the moment. Parker bent over the soil, the cool breeze blowing his hair, and the entire team standing silently behind him. It was as if the Alaskan soil itself was hiding a secret. No one knew what lay beneath the stopped machine, but the look on Parker's face clearly said, "We're not finished yet." The night shift discovery. It was nighttime. There was silence and a cold breeze. Everyone else in the camp was resting, but Parker couldn't sleep. The same question kept revolving in his mind. Why did that drill machine stop? He picked up his jacket, grabbed his flashlight and camera, and set off alone toward the site. The Alaskan night was so quiet that even his breathing was audible. A thin layer of snow covered the soil, and a soft creaking sound accompanied Parker's every step. When he reached the drill site, he turned on his camera light. The soil in that spot looked different, darker and shinier than the rest. Parker tilted the light down, and his eyes widened. Something large, heavy, and metallic was buried beneath the soil. He tried to remove the surrounding soil, and as some of the soil cleared, a faint golden glow emerged. Parker softly said, "Is that gold?" His voice was so soft it dissolved into the air. He bent down, removed the soil with his hand, and then brought the flashlight closer. The object was cold and hard, but the golden shimmer emanating from it was unmistakable. Fear, excitement, and curiosity, all three expressions, cameras, crossed Parker's face. He picked up the radio and said softly, "Guys, you have to get to the site immediately." Within minutes, the entire crew arrived. The nighttime atmosphere was now filled with suspense. Cameras were rolling, and Parker held the flashlight, which was about to slowly lift the veil of a mystery. Giant gold cluster unearthed excavation began before the first rays of dawn. Parker himself took the driver's seat of the excavator. The machine's hum echoed in the cold air. Everyone's hearts were pounding. Parker slowly lowered the bucket to the spot where he had seen the glow the night before. "Easy, very easy," he said to himself. Cameras were recording from every angle. Slowly, the soil was removed, and with it, the golden shimmer became clearer. Suddenly, the bucket's teeth hit something hard. Parker stopped the machine. Concern was on the crew's faces, but a faint smile graced Parker's lips. He continued removing soil inch by inch. Then came the moment. A massive object covered in soil slowly emerged. Mud and stones clung to it, but as the sun's rays fell on it, the entire object glowed in golden light. It was no ordinary piece, but a giant gold cluster, a size no one had ever seen before. Brennan stepped back and exclaimed, "Oh my God, this is unbelievable." Mitch, with his hands over his eyes, said, "I've never seen gold like this in my entire career." Parker was silent for a few seconds. Then he said softly, "Guys, this changes everything." There were tears in his eyes and disbelief on his face. The piece of gold was so large that it took 2 people to lift it. It weighed over 30 kilograms. In front of the camera, Parker took it in his hands, shook off the dirt, and uttered just one line. "We just made history." At that moment, the entire camp erupted in celebration. Some were shouting, some were crying, and some simply stared at the golden glow. The cold Alaskan wind still blew, but in that moment, everyone's hearts were filled with warmth. A victory that had begun in the darkness of night and reached the glitter of gold. For Parker, it wasn't just gold. It was a testament to his hard work, courage, and faith. Counting the gold. The morning sun had now spread across the camp, but Parker and his team were devoid of sleep. Only excitement. The giant gold cluster was now completely cleaned and placed in the weighing tent. All eyes were fixed on the large weighing machine. Parker took a deep breath and said, "Let's see how much our hard work has paid off." Mitch carefully lifted the cluster and placed it on the machine. The numbers on the digital screen began to climb rapidly. 10 ounces, 20, 40, 80. Everyone's eyes widened. Brennan said, "It just won't stop." Parker's smile slowly widened, but he remained quiet, as if in disbelief. As the numbers climbed, the atmosphere became electric. When the screen crossed 1,000 ounces, everyone simultaneously breathed a sigh. Parker said, "Wait, it's not over yet." When the machine finally stopped, the total weight showed 1,250 ounces. The room fell silent for a moment. Everyone looked at each other, as if it were a dream. Parker picked up the calculator, quickly typed something, and then said, "Guys, this is over $10 million worth of gold." The entire team jumped up at the sound. Some laughed, some shook their heads in disbelief, and some had tears in their eyes. Brennan hugged Parker. "You weren't crazy, brother. You're a genius." Parker simply laughed lightly and said, "We did it." The emotions captured on camera at that moment weren't scripted. They were pure reality. Years of hard work, struggle, cold, failure, all were answered in a single moment. Parker held the cluster in his hands, looked up at the light and said, "This isn't just gold. This is our story." The crew erupted in applause. Everyone knew they had found something that would go down in gold rush history. Social media and fan reaction. But the story didn't end there. The next day, when the Discovery Channel team posted a short clip of the footage online, the internet exploded. Hashtags like Parker Schnabel, Alaska Gold, and Gold Rush History began trending within hours. The clip featured Parker saying, "We just made history." Fans went wild. Theories abounded on Reddit, Twitter, and YouTube. Is this the largest gold find ever? Is it natural or came from an old deposit? Some viewers analyzed the video frame by frame. One user wrote, "If it really was 1,250 ounces, it's one of the top 3 finds in gold rush history." Another jokingly wrote, "Parker surpassed Tony Beats." Memes were created on social media, with Parker's photo captioned, "When your shovel hits $10 million." People's emotions were evident in the YouTube comments section. Some wrote, "Parker is a legend." Others said, "He's the real king of the Klondike." The video's views surpassed millions within hours. Parker himself was in disbelief that his story had reached people around the world overnight. That evening, when he opened his mobile phone, the notifications wouldn't stop. The world was buzzing with Parker's name. Someone wrote, "This isn't just gold. It's a triumph of determination." Parker hung up, smiling, and said, "Maybe this is just the beginning." The story that began in that cold Alaskan valley was now being told around the world. Parker Schnabel's name had become not just that of a miner, but a legend. Tony Beats's reaction. As news of Parker Schnabel's historic discovery spread through the media, every mining camp from Alaska to the Yukon was abuzz. And eventually, the news reached Tony Beats's camp. Tony was standing among his machines when his son, Kevin, came up and said, "Dad, Parker unearthed $10 million worth of gold in Alaska." Tony exhaled smoke from his pipe, laughed lightly, and said, "Huh, let's see if the kid can keep it." His tone was playful, but there was that same old, challenging glint in his eyes. Tony had always been Parker's biggest rival. They shared a strange rivalry, one that combined hatred and respect. Tony knew Parker was hard-working, but he always said, "Experience beats youth any day." But what Parker did this time changed the entire equation. Tony told his crew, "Okay, boys, now you'll have to double the work. I won't let any kid surpass me." And laughter echoed throughout the camp, but everyone knew Tony's joke was only half true. That night, Tony uttered a line on camera that went viral. Parker got the gold, but can he handle the storm that follows? His statement sparked debate on the internet. A cold war between Team Parker and Team Tony began among fans. Parker's enthusiasm, Tony's experience, and the gold rush heated up again. The secret chamber theory. But as photos of Parker's discovery began to surface online, some noticed something strange. The surface of the gold cluster appeared to have carved patterns, as if someone had carved it centuries ago. Theories abounded on Reddit and YouTube. Some suggested the gold wasn't natural, but came from an ancient deposit. Some even suggested Parker had found part of an ancient underground chamber once dug by an ancient civilization or explorers. Geologist Mike also said in an interview, "The clay layer and metallic traces don't match any modern placer deposit. It appears to be much older." Fans quickly dubbed it the secret chamber theory. In some videos, people compared old maps and Parker's location, claiming that Russian explorers had visited the site in the 1800s. Social media was now talking more about these mysterious carvings than about gold. Parker himself remained silent, but a slight seriousness began to appear on his face. Had he really just discovered gold, or had he uncovered a secret that should have remained hidden? The icy land of Alaska now seemed more like an archaeological puzzle than a gold mine. Government and mining officials arrive. Within days, the matter became so serious that government mining officials themselves arrived at Parker's site. A long line of their SUVs changed the atmosphere of the entire camp. Parker was standing near the excavation pit when an official descended and said, "Mr. Schnabel, we need to inspect your recent discovery." Parker replied, "Sure, but this is my claim, and what's found here is mine." His voice was calm, but the atmosphere was tense. Officials surrounded the site, taking photographs, collecting samples, and recording everything. The crew felt uneasy. Would the government now take over this discovery? Parker said into the camera, "We've done everything within the rules, but if these people think they can take it from us, they'll have to go through me." His voice was calm, but his words were fiery. Finally, the officials said, "This discovery doesn't just appear to be gold, it may also have some historical value. Until the investigation is complete, the extraction should be stopped." Parker clenched his fists angrily, but said nothing. The cameras focused on his eyes. There was anger, fear, and challenge all there. At that moment, the cold Alaskan air felt even heavier. It wasn't just about gold. It was now a fight for ownership, for truth, and perhaps even for history. Parker knew his true test had begun. Parker's emotional monologue evening had fallen. The last rays of the sun were falling on the golden snow in the Alaskan sky. Parker sat alone outside his tent, the camera on. He was silent for a few seconds, then took a deep breath and said, "When I started this journey, I was only 16 years old. Everyone said I wouldn't be able to do it. Tony said I was too young, and some people said, 'What if I lucked out and found gold once?' I wouldn't find it again." Parker's voice was soft, but full of emotion. He picked up a small gold nugget from the dirt and pointed it at the camera. "This isn't just gold. This is a piece of every day. I didn't give up." There was a slight moisture in his eyes. "I lost friends, made bad decisions, lost money. But one thing I never gave up: my belief in myself. Gold Rush isn't just a show. It's my life." The camera slowly zoomed in, Parker's face now filled with emotion. He said, "Every time the ground turned empty, I would ask myself, should I stop? But then a voice inside me said, 'No, Parker, dig a little harder.' And maybe that's what brought me to where I am today." He was silent for a moment, then looked up at the sky and said, "My grandfather always said, gold isn't found by hard work, it's found by faith. Today, I feel his words are true." The camera slowly fades to that moment. Fatigue in Parker's eyes, but peace in his heart. The big reveal. The next morning, the camp was bustling. The Discovery Channel team, reporters, and Parker's entire crew had gathered. Parker stood in the middle of the excavation site, a giant gold cluster shining behind him. He smiled, looked at the camera, and said, This is the biggest find of my life." Just then, slow music began playing in the background, and drone shots flew over the cold Alaskan valley. The crew's faces were filled with joy and disbelief. Brennan's eyes were moist. Mitch shouted, "We did it, boys!" Parker hugged everyone, and cheers erupted everywhere. The camera zoomed down from the sky. White snow all around, a golden glow in the center, and Parker's smiling face. That smile wasn't just of victory, it was of hard work. Reporters were asking Parker, "How do you feel?" He said, "This is my team's victory. We didn't just find gold, we crossed the limits of courage." The Alaskan air no longer felt cold. It had a warmth, a hint of hard work that had now become history. In the evening, Parker appeared before the camera again. The orange glow of the sunset was behind him, and work was still ongoing at the site. He said in a calm voice, "What we found is a huge victory for everyone, but we don't know what's still underneath." He smiled and added, "Maybe there's more gold, or maybe something we've never seen before." The camera slowly zooms in on his eyes. The same sparkle, the same curiosity. Cut 2. The sound of an excavator, something metallic glinting in the soil below. Dramatic pause. Text appears on the screen, "To be continued." Then Parker's voice is heard, "If you think the story ends here, you're wrong. The real adventure has just begun." The background music speeds up. The screen shows shots of Parker's team, the glint of gold, and snow blowing in the cold Alaskan wind. Finally, Parker's voice comes back. Like the video, share it with your friends. Tell us in the comments what you think lies beneath. And yes, be sure to subscribe, because next time, what we're going to unearth won't be gold. It will be history.